Okay, good.
All right, good morning. I'm calling to order the May 10th PPACG Pikes Peak Area Council of Government Board of Directors meeting. Mr. Gunning, can we establish a quorum, please?
Yes, I just see by looking around the room, we need 7 and we've got more than 7. So maybe if we do introductions, we can quantify exactly how many we've got.
Okay, sounds good. I am Sharon Thompson, the chair of PPACG and the mayor of Fountain, Mr. Dave Donaldson.
Thank you, Sharon. So Dave Donaldson, Colorado Springs City Council, also the chair of Colorado Springs Utilities Board of Directors. And we have some new folks we just had our committee assignments out of Colorado Springs City Council. And so Yolanda Avila and I will stay on. And I believe Nancy Henjum, she needed to focus on some other stuff. So she stepped down voluntarily. And I believe it is Lynette Crow-Iverson. Yolanda, is that right? Who's going to join us? Yeah. I'm not sure if she's here today, but she'll be joining PPACG also. So that was the longest introduction I've ever done.
Andy Gunning, PPACG.
John Graham, City Manager Springs.
Roland Gardine, Mayor Pro Tem McElhaney.
Todd Dixon, Mayor Green Mountain Falls.
Mitchell Kine, Mayor, Town of Monument.
Like
John Hall with CDOT standing in for Shane Ferguson.
Lisa Torman Hickey, Colorado Transportation Commission.
Good morning, Kelly Case, Mayor Pro Tem Woodland Park.
Jeff Bond, representing Space Base Delta One, and Colonel David Hansen.
Yolanda Avila, City Council, Colorado Springs, District 4.
Eric Stone, Teller County Commissioner.
Okay, I get a few introductions too.
Oh, actually, I'm going to interrupt you because I'm also treasurer of PPACG.
Okay, Holly Williams, I'm the second vice president, El Paso County Commissioner. I cannot see if Commissioner Vanderwerf is online. And Commissioner Cammie Bremer is going to be excused today for a family emergency. So your prayers on behalf of her mother who is sick. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do we have any elected officials online?
Madam Chair, we have one online, Trustee Walker from RAMA.
If you could go ahead and unmute and introduce yourself.
And I know last meeting she wasn't able to unmute herself, so I don't know, but
Okay.
she is online.
All right.
And Madam Chair, I also see Commissioner Amy Mitchell from Park County. Is Commissioner Mitchell?
Okay. If anybody else pops online, we can always introduce them later. All right. All right, thank you. We will go on to item number 2, agenda approval. And excuse me, I'm going to back up for just that establishes a quorum, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All righty. Agenda approval, item 2. What would board like to do with that?
Move we approve the agenda, Mayor Dixon.
Eric Stone, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for agenda approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Okay, that takes us on to item 3. Item A, staff recognition, John Liasato's 5 years. I know, I can't believe that. I know, we're all looking around the room like, are you serious?
He looks older than that.
It's been about 35.
So congratulations, John. His 5th anniversary is May 14th. And Andy reached his 5-year anniversary in February, and John was Andy's first hire. So congratulations. I know Andy wants to say a few words.
Okay, thank you.
Just know it.
John has been just an amazing contributor to our team, and just so happy that I forgot that he was our first hire. So happy that that it all worked out and he wanted to come and join us. So thank you so much. Appreciate all your contributions.
Thanks.
Well,
I was gonna say, I'm sitting here trying to think of if we should talk about Brussels sprouts or broccoli or mashed potatoes or anything else today, but.
Are you just starting to be molded cheese?
Oh.
You notice there are a lot of. Okay, thank you very much, and looking for hopefully at least another 5. But
And Madam Chair, if I may, in all seriousness, you're as valuable to me in your role here at PPACG as my own Public Works Director is. There's many, many issues where I pick up the phone and I call John or I text John or email John. And you've been a great help all the way through with Stack and also with just projects, getting things going. And again, all kidding aside, you are very much appreciated by me and I'm sure by the rest of the board. Thank you.
very helpful. Thank you.
Your analogies are inspirational, so don't bother you about it.
John, I'd like to express my appreciation how you just dove into the legislative committee today, this last year, crazy year. And just dove right in and took that on and we're lassoing the cats there and trying to keep us on task and did it very gracefully.
Thank you. Couldn't do it without a great staff to actually do all the real work. I just come up with stupid analogies and I get all the credit, but they do actually all the real work. So, but thank you all very much. And it was a brutal year, so you guys made it very easy to navigate with your leadership. So I appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? We doing a photo or? Okay, while they're doing the camera. Okay. Under public comments. Okay, we'll do the picture first. All righty. And we've been joined by Commissioner Vanderwerth, so we'll get him in the record. Thank you for coming. All right, we have one other surprise from Andy.
The comments, today is maybe the day for recognition, and it's not on the agenda. And we kind of did that intentionally so we could surprise one of our staff members. Last week, a handful of us in the AAA had a chance to go to the Senior Resource Council Joe Hencham Accolades Award. And yes, it is named after Nancy Hencham's father, who was instrumental in starting the Senior Resource Council. And now they do an annual awards recognition. And our own Jody Barker, our AAA director, was recognized with a Lifetime Achievement Award through the Joe Hencham accolades. And that's a really, really big recognition. He's recognized by his peers for a really long run in helping so many seniors and their families across the region. So I wanted to highlight that. And we've also got something that we wanted to give Jody as well. So come on up if you can. This isn't as nice as the Joe Hencham Accolades Award that you got, the small trophy. But Jody ran the senior center for the city of Colorado Springs for a number of years as well. And as you know, the senior center is going to be torn down here fairly soon, I think this summer. So we've got something that we're giving to Jody on behalf of PPACG. Thank you for all your tremendous contributions to improving the quality of life of seniors in our region, from the big to the small, much like much needed pedestrian ramps during your tenure as director of the senior center. Jody pointed out to me that one of the proudest moments was when you finally got a pedestrian improvement made in front of the senior center. It's the little things in life that actually make a really big difference. So seniors wouldn't have to step over a very, very steep curb to get into the building. So wanted to present this to you as well. So thank you, Jody.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Look at the mile-long smile on Jody's face.
Congratulations and thanks for all the hard work. And I think you're another person that a lot of us pick up the phone to talk with also.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the event last week was quite a surprise. And as you can see in this picture, this is really exciting because several staff were able to be there, and you can see the second award that Melissa is holding there. We've been able to support the Pikes Peak Elder Justice Center with their startup costs through some other funding that we've been able to access. And so there were so many people recognized, both nominated for the awards in nonprofits and volunteerism, and just a lot of good work being done by a lot of great people for our community. And so my greatest pleasure in receiving the Joe Hingham Accolade Lifetime Achievement Award was the fact that I had the privilege of knowing Joe Hingham and getting to work with him and getting to volunteer with him on this very event. At the time, in the late 90s and early 2000s, it was called Honoring the Ages, and we got to work on that together. So yeah, it's just been a really good run. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
All right, thank you, and congratulations again. All right. That takes us on to item 3B, public comments. Public comments can be made before or during the meeting. Public comments during the meeting is limited to 3 minutes and can be done at the meeting location or remotely by using the posted Microsoft Team link. Do we have anyone in the audience under public comments? IT, do we have anybody online for public comments?
So I'll ask anyone who's in the attendee area, raise your hand if you have any public comments that you'd like to make. In the meantime, we did not receive any advance requests for public comment through the email. And as I stalled a little bit, no one has raised their hand, so I believe we're good to continue.
All right, thank you very much. And that takes us on to item C, military installation reports. Do we have anybody? We have one in the room, and then we'll go to online after that.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the board for giving the ability to have Space Base Delta One give an update on a few things that happened this past month. Last month was the military month of the child, and we had a Miss Abby Addison, who was selected by the Colorado Boys and Girls Club of America for the state of Colorado as being their military youth of the year. Also, we had the honor of having Mayor Suthers give a tour of City Hall to several of our military families as part of the month of military child as well. On April 11th, our civil engineer explosive ordnance disposal flight had a weapons of mass destruction training event with USAFA and the FBI up at the Air Force Academy. The explosive ordnance flight that we have provides emergency response support for explosive agents to 5 different Space Force and Air Force bases in the region, as well as 85% of Colorado. The update on the East Gate closure that impacts Mark Shuffle Road it's currently on schedule, and we expect to have it completed in July. We are still routing our traffic through the North Gate and the West Gate. Congestion is a minor problem, but we're working through those issues. On the April 10th, Schriever Fire Department and Flight for Life partnered in a joint training exercise at Schriever, focused specifically on emergency response and interagency capabilities. And finally, our security forces at both Schriever, Peterson, and Cheyenne Mountain are working with local law enforcement for this upcoming Police Week activities, both on and off of the installation. Subject to questions, that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Any questions? All right, thank you very much. Sounds like you guys are busy. Do we have any military online?
Once again, based on the names, I don't see anybody who looks like they're from a military installation, but if they could please raise their hands to indicate so we can move them into a role to speak. But yeah, seeing none, I believe that we are good with military installation reports.
Okay. Okay.
Just on the military installations update, the Air Force Academy is in my district. And as you know, we're all very proud of our military presence here in El Paso County. So it is Armed Forces Week, many, many events, and then including, I think, a concert tonight at Pikes Peak Center. And then, of course, on June 2nd, we decided, which was a Tuesday or maybe a Thursday, will be the Air Force Academy graduation. President Biden will be in town. We recommend that if you're in your office and you see a 202 area code, you pick up your phone, because that's how we got to see President Trump 4 years ago. We just happened to be in our office, and as I say, seeing that plane land is the most amazing moment I've ever had in my life. So.
All right, thank you. All right, well, if any of them pop on, Jaren, let us know and we'll go back there. Okay, that takes us on to consent items 4. We have items A, B, and C for consent agenda. What would the board like to do?
Move approval.
I'll second John Graham.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of the consent items. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Action items, number 5, item A, annual tip policies and procedures adoption. Danielle Miller. Now you're not Danielle. Yeah, okay.
Hello, board. I'm Jess Bechtel. I'm actually covering this one today, taking over the tip from Danelle. So today we have the tip policy and procedures for you to review. As the Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO, for the region, we are federally required to develop and maintain a transportation improvement program, or TIP. The TIP is our 4-year short-range plan of transportation projects, and any project that is funded with federal dollars or regionally significant is required to be listed in our TIP. We are currently in the process of updating the current fiscal year TIP, which is years 23 through 27, and we are getting ready to start working on our 25 through 29 TIP, which you'll be reviewing in the coming months. As part of the TIP process, we regularly review and update guiding documents such as this one, which is the policy and procedures. And the purpose of this document is to provide consistency and clarity to the jurisdictions regarding their project submittal. Updates are made as needed to reflect state and federal regulations. Most of the updates on this particular document today are just minor in nature, grammar corrections. The biggest change we made would be the addition of the acronyms, which start on page 17 of the document, or 32 of the board packet. Tons of acronyms. Other than that, it's been reviewed and recommended for approval by both the CAC and the TAC, and now we ask for your review and approval.
All right, are there any questions or comments from anyone on the board? Mayor Pro Tem Case?
I would just like to say thank you for the acronym guide. It's very helpful.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, I hope not.
Madam Chair, I'll also say that at the Statewide Transportation Advisory Committee last week, we update the TIP every 4 years, every year, to add in the 4th year. And so we approved an updated TIP, and I think there were about 3 or 4 pages of projects for our region. So.
Mayor Havenar, did you have a question or comment, because your mic's on?
No,
Oh.
it's been up.
Okay, all right, just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Anybody online with any questions or comments? Seeing none, what would the board like to do with this? Mayor Pro Tem Case?
I'll move to approve. as presented.
Mayor. Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, thank you so much.
Oh, we haven't voted yet.
Oh.
We have a motion and a second on the TIP policies and procedures adoption. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Nay. I still object to the MPO boundary thing.
Oh, in theory.
Okay.
In there. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. That takes us on to item C, informational items. We have item A, legislative update. And maybe it should be legislative survival award or something, huh? That we all survived the, oh my goodness, it was yeah.
Thank you, Legislative
Sure.
Committee and John.
And again, staff. Madam Chair, members of the committee, it was a board rather, it was a brutal, maybe a couple more brutals in there, brutal session. But again, we got through it. There are some things that obviously in a perfect world wouldn't have happened the way they did, but I think we did our best to make sure that we had our opinion known for anybody who was willing to hear what that was. It was available, and if they weren't, well, Dan, I think, was still sort of at their doorstep trying to make sure that they still heard it anyway. With this, I think there's very little value in me talking. So kind of would like to give the co-chairs the opportunity to talk about their legislation. And we have Dan as well to sort of give an overview. I don't know if you want to start with Dan or you guys want to start and then pass it off to Dan. Dan.
Okay, go ahead, Dan.
You're on, Dan.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. I think Suzanne is on as well. Go ahead and add in. I do think that, yeah, to John's point, it was a brutal session, especially for local control and unfunded mandates.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, but I do want to just kind of caution everybody, and I think that this is going to be a really good interim for us to get to our legislators between June and December, just to talk to them in general about our needs, our wants, our issues moving forward. So we're on the record, because next year is just going to be more of the same. The exact same people are coming back. And it's going to be interesting to see how leadership manages that during the interim, from the fact that in the paper, no matter what paper you pick up, from Colorado Politics, the Sun, the Gazette, the Denver Post, whichever papers you're picking up and looking at, the left caucus is considering this a wasted and unsuccessful session for their progressive agenda. So I just think it's going to be really, really important. We know what's coming next year. Anything that came this year and didn't pass, anything that came this year and they didn't feel fulfilled by, I would expect to come back next year, just based on all the articles you're seeing, unless leadership does an unbelievable job of calling them off. But I think regardless of whether it's the Republicans or the Democrats right now, I think we've been seeing this trend over the last couple of years. Leadership is having a very difficult time keeping their wings to the caucus. And I think we've seen that. So I expect moving forward next year, things we saw last year. And frankly, I think we ended the session on as high a note as possibly we could end it on, with 213 dying. And I think that just goes to show the divide in the Democratic caucus, is they couldn't cut a deal in their own caucus in conference committee, going into conference committee, to get that bill in a passable form. So I think that, I don't know that we can take away this as, was it a difficult session? Absolutely. Did we have to give and we lost on things we didn't want to? Absolutely. But I think we showed collective group, with all the groups together, with all the counties and cities fighting it, CCI, CML, PPACG, Dr. Cog. We showed that when the might is behind it, something like 213 couldn't get to the finish line. And I think we should take some real comfort, in that. So, I think overall, the things we supported passed. They're awaiting the governor's signature. Unfortunately, many of the things we opposed, we had to compromise on. On 1294, which we opposed at PPACG, we were still able to get some amendments on, help that bill make it a little bit better. And I know we wrote the RTA out of that bill. So, that's how I kind of see the session. And I see the next session, again, going to be exactly the same. I don't think it being an election year is going to slow down the progressive side of the caucus, just from the fact they're already taking shots at the speaker for her performance. So that's sort of my read on the session, and I'm happy to answer any questions and listen to what anybody else thinks happened as well.
Thanks, Dan. I'm not sure what. Okay, Mayor Graham.
Well, okay. Mayor Dixon.
I'm sorry. I knew that.
Yeah. So the first thing I'd like to do is to recognize Commissioner Stone and Mayor Thompson. As far as the legislative committee, And again, this is my perception. They were some of the most active participants. Thank you very much. As a first timer, I've learned a lot. I'm going to have to try to get Green Mountain Falls even more engaged, even as a small community. But I'd really like to especially thank you two for your engagement, especially. I know both of you were highly engaged throughout the whole process.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And actually, I was going to thank you because in the middle of all this, I got the crud that probably everybody got a piece of this last spring. My voice completely went away, and I can't tell you how many times I just texted Todd and said I need, and of course we're co-chairs, but it's just like I just need you to run it. I'll be there and I'll croak when I need to. But thank you for that because although quote rookie on the committee, you're not a rookie in professionalism, and so you were great. And appreciate all the members of the legislative committee, Mayor Graham, Council Member Donaldson. Your guys' expertise from your own community is also the expertise on utilities and in the medical world. Was really invaluable as we went all the way through this. And I know personally I relied on a lot of what you guys said a lot because I don't always understand specifically how things affect municipalities, and I'm grateful to not own a utility. So appreciative of that. Couple of just observations off this session. I know personally, I spoke about it a lot, certainly among quote my caucus, my county, as I talked about how I'm going to change strategies this year. I know what position that we're in. We're in a super majority, control position for the majority party, and I had a discussion with Senator Mark Baisley in the very first week of the session. We were walking down the street, across the street from the Capitol, and I said, Mark, what are we going to do this session? He goes, well, we have a choice. We can make a point or we can make a difference. And he goes, there are a lot of people are going to be making points this legislative session, but there's going to be a limited number of people that are making a difference. Senator Baisley, a Republican, had 4 out of his 5 bills pass. And they were all really good bills. Some of them helped local government. And his one biggie, Senate Bill 108, that is a gift to all of us. It's a gift to all of our citizens. That one passed through without a single dissenting vote in any committee or in either body. And we've gotten a head nod from the governor to schedule a signing for it. That's the head nod you want. So it looks like we will get, that 108 authority clarified for us. But going back though, is that my philosophy going into this was that I was going to start early and I was going to build as many relationships as I could, period. I didn't care who they were. I was going to try to build relationships. And that, I will tell you what, we won stuff we should not have won. We got amendments maybe we shouldn't have gotten. I say shouldn't have because we had no power, right, for the stuff that we wanted. The only thing that pulled those things through were relationships. I had Democrat senators making amendments to bills that carved Teller County out of bills because nobody would accept it from my senator. But if I got the senator from Summit County to introduce it, they would accept it. We had things like that going on, and Dan can talk about this as well if he wants to, but there were a lot of times when other people carried our water because of the relationships. On 213, there were a ton of amendments that Senator Kirkmeyer wanted to bring to that bill, and they wouldn't take them because it was Senator Kirkmeyer. Well, they took those amendments to somebody else, and somebody else introduced them, and we got them. So we got some wins, 213, and I look at 213 as, part of it we would consider a win, right? That they didn't affect local control, which is the goal. But really what we saw there, and not just on 213, but that was the biggie, was a complete breakdown of the majority party and their ability to work together amongst themselves. And from this, as we look to next year, I think those relationships are going to continue to be even more important. I believe that the governor, when they set up, this leadership team and everything that they had going forward, is they were trying to hold fringes in check so that they could have meaningful legislation that would help, all Coloradans and that more people could agree with. They didn't get all of that, but they did get some of it. But I think I learned, and I think a lot of us learned, is that, those relationships at the legislature, we we can get stuff that, and we talked a lot about making stuff less bad. We got stuff that literally left us alone. It started out that it was going to completely impact all of us. And part of it is because they're always trying to solve Denver problems on a statewide level. And we were able to kind of push those back and just say, okay, well, you're doing it to Denver, but maybe not the Pikes Peak region, maybe not the rural areas. So just as a group moving forward next year, I mean, I guess that would be my theme. Dan said we're going to be in the exact same situation next year, which by the numbers is not good. I'm actually a little worried that the progressive arm of the Democrat Party may try to take over the House. It was hard to do this first year because there's so many freshman representatives coming in, but next session, I don't know what's going to happen there. Now, it could be that breaks down into total chaos. I mean, and not that this wasn't like chaos this time, there was, but at least we had experienced people leading as best they could. But if we get some of the people that were saying some of the, quite frankly, crazy stuff, I saw behavior on the House floor and in committees I'd never seen before in this legislature. I saw representatives banging their heads on a table while somebody was testifying. And you just kind of go, what's going on? But that being said, it could be, and they're trying to set up those people into leadership positions. And if so, I think the divide between the Senate and the House is going to grow. And if that does happen, then our relationships with those people who are willing to work together for the betterment of Colorado, we might actually have a better session. So long speech, sorry, but it was a long 120 days, and I would have liked to have taken a few of those off, but we just had to charge on through. But again, just thank everybody that was on the committee, and thank you, John. Thank you, Dan and Suzanne. A lot of good work was done. We got some wins that like I said, I don't think we should have gotten, but we did, and I'm grateful for those. And we made a lot of stuff not as bad. Boy, did we make a lot of stuff not as bad. So I appreciate all of that. Sorry, long speech.
One thing I was encouraged about, by the end of the session, you were really starting to hear people that you never thought it would come out of their mouths talk about portability for senior homestead exemption. And I was
not sure they meant it.
Well, I know, but at least you heard it. So they are at least aware of it, right? And I thought, okay, we'll keep working at it, but at least they're aware of it and they've heard of it. And I like I said, I was hearing it from people I never thought I'd hear it from. So that to me was a little encouraging to hear that towards the end. What can you just take a second and really quick, just kind of quickly say why 108 can be so important to our individual communities?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. So 108 was an idea we had in Teller County back in October when we were meeting with our assessor, looking at what was going to be happening that we're all now very well aware of. And so we quickly dialed up the presumptive senator from Senate District 7 and said, do you have any bills left? And he goes, well, maybe. And I said, well, as far as we read it from how CML take on authority to do temporary property tax relief, CML thinks that the authority may not be there, because if you lower it, then you have to go to a vote of the people to raise it back up. CCI was split on the issue. And ultimately what I meant was that it was gray. And since the statutes were somewhat silent, we wanted clarity, because we knew it was something that we wanted to do as Teller County. We knew we had to do as Teller County because there was nothing else out there. There was nothing in the legislature that was even being proposed at that point. So we authored a bill with Mark Baisley, and essentially, in short, what the bill says is that you as local government, and that's all local government, outside of those that are statutorily school districts that can't change their mill levy, you have the authority to give temporary property tax relief year by year as a mill levy reduction or tax credit. And that's it. You have the authority. And it's very clear with the way it was written. We run it through just about every lawyer that's out there, and everybody likes it. Everybody was satisfied with it. So you now have that authority. And I want to just talk a little bit just for a second about how we're going to be applying that in Teller County. And it's already other counties, as we talked about this among some of the commissioners' caucuses, is that I think there's never been a more important time for local leaders to stand up and help our citizens. And in Teller County, Commissioner is going to be hosting in June. We're working on the date. I've already talked with Kelly about it. And Jeff, this might be news to you. Where'd Jeff go? Anyway, we're going to be getting together a work session with all of the taxing authorities in Teller County and presenting them with, here's where we are. Here's 108. Here's HH. Here's Prop 21. Here's all these possible outcomes, and every single taxing authority is going to be given essentially a binder of here was your 2023, and here's all the different ways that 2024 could play out in regards to revenue, depending on what passes, what gets voted on, what doesn't pass. And then we want to pair up and basically put together a package of property tax relief for all of our residents so that as we look forward to HH or Prop 21, I believe everybody in this room believes that the solution to property tax relief and what I will call appropriate taxation rests with local government. It rests with local voters. It doesn't rest in the legislature. It doesn't rest in a statewide vote as to what's an appropriate tax increase for El Paso County. Why should the rest of the state get a vote on how much taxes are in El Paso County? It doesn't make any sense. And that's why we have local government. So we came up with this idea of doing this and of gathering all these taxing authorities together. We thought it was a good idea. Elbert County thought it was such a good idea. They've already rushed forward with it. They've already scheduled a meeting in June 15th. So my encouragement to everyone is, first off, is to go talk to your county attorneys, go talk to your finance directors and your administrators, and have a sit down, figure out what your projections are, but then also is reach out to the other taxing authorities and see what, whether it's a county coming forward to lead that or a group of mayors coming together to lead that. I think it's important that we do it, because if we don't do it, one of the things that I hear a lot from around the state, and it kind of blows my mind when I hear it, because I hear it from some commissioners, and they say, I just want the state to tell us what to do. And I don't. We know what we need to do. We know what we need to do for our people, and we can only do that together. Is that a good summation?
Yes, thank you very much. Commissioner Williams.
And I do have a comment. I'm glad they clarified that. That right has always existed in Tabor to do a temporary mill levy reduction, not a temporary sales tax reduction. A temporary sales tax reduction is a permanent sales tax reduction. So temporary mill levy reduction. And as people call me complaining about their assessment bills and their property assessment and the amount of taxes, I say to them very directly, we still have Tabor spending caps in El Paso County, but you need to be at your school boards. You need to be at your water districts. We have 18 school boards, 30 plus water districts, special districts, all who collect property taxes. I say, you need to be there and say, listen, 108 allows you to reduce the mill levy. There's going to be a big, there's probably going to be a big temptation to keep the money and either give it to teacher salaries or to give it to, on a conservative aspect, paying down your high school bonds or whatever bonds you have out there to build buildings. But it is just, we had our highest increase was 56% in Black Forest. Mine was 52%. And Ivy Wild actually was right up there with all of well, and it's all over the county. And so the thing is this is a temporary mill levy reduction that you can do, whether it's you say, okay, we only want to take half of the revenue we're getting from this, windfall or something. It's hard in this recession. I'm sorry. It's hard in this economy. I can't qualify it as a recession. I'm not an economist. It's hard in this economy for people to pay these kind of bills, especially with seniors on fixed incomes.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, Eric, appreciate everything that you guys did on 108, but I do have to ask the question, how does 108 interact with the 5.5% property tax revenue limit, which is in Colorado statute section 29(1-301, which restricts the total amount of property tax revenue that a local government may collect each year to no more than 5.5%. So if the house value goes up 50%, you can't collect a 50% increase with the statute. The most you can collect is a 5.5% increase. So I know it doesn't apply to home rule, and I know there's some other exceptions, but this law applies to El Paso County. And so our budget people are saying, even with these massive increases in El Paso County, we can't increase the revenues, the aggregate revenues of property tax collection by more than 5.5%. So how does that interact with 108?
Yeah, great question, Madam Chair. First off, fantastic question, and you're 100% right. But the exclusions are large and many. And the number one is, you're familiar with the term debruced. Teller County is debruced. Back in 1997, the voters of Teller County voted that for any surplus, that would be invested into public safety and roads, which is basically law enforcement and roads. So that happened many, many years ago. So we're debruced. My understanding is 47 out of the 64 counties are debruced. I don't know how that applies to special districts. As you already mentioned, it doesn't apply to home rule. So this clarifies the authority for home rule, which CML was actually pretty firm on that they didn't have the authority, at least in their legal city attorney's opinion. So I would think there's actually going to be more local government authorities that are going to gain authority to limit that previously was either not spoken to or gray in their authority to do so. Whereas it's very explicit in Tabor and what you talk about there. And that was the problem, is what the way it was written in statute. That's not a problem. It's just it didn't address, because debruce didn't exist before Tabor, right? It only existed after Tabor. So it only spoke to what was the limit and how to refund under Tabor and under Tabor limits. But it didn't address how to do that if you had debruced, if Tabor didn't apply.
If I could ask, because the concept of debrucing actually refers to the Tabor law.
Mm-hmm.
And this is actually not part of the Tabor law. I'm reading an article here that says that municipalities and local government could have run a ballot measure to eliminate this 5.5% limit. So maybe Teller County did do that, but it's not actually a debrucing action. And I can tell you that we have not run a ballot measure in El Paso to eliminate the 5.5%, nor have we run a ballot measure to debruce. So this law still applies to us.
I'm going to interrupt the two of you and ask that you guys take this really county commissioner discussion maybe to another meeting, and we can kind of move on with the general legislative rep, because I think it's a deep discussion that needs to happen between the county commissioners.
Okay.
Can I ask Holly a question about lowering the mill levy? And I guess that feels like a slippery slope to me, because in lowering the mill levy, then what happens if taxes adjust next year? Now the mill levy's lower, and then people don't want to raise the mill levy back up. So I'm just saying, it just feels like that the mill levy adjustment to fix it for fixed income could be a slippery slope. I'm not understanding how we could adjust the mill levy and then raise it back up when appeals go through, or when things kind of level back out.
Well, it's a temporary reduction of the mill levy. And so for 1 year, and so the next year you would have the right to bring it back up. And I can see that, there may be some political consequences to that, but you can say, okay, we're going to reduce it for 1 year, but next year we might go up a couple more mills, as the economy gets better. So we're always, in order to meet our Tabor spending cap, we always have a temporary mill levy that's been lowered, that at any point in time we could raise it back up to, I think, 8.1 or something was when we last set it permanently.
May I make a suggestion, Andy? I think this is a great interest to everybody, and I think I'm seeing a regional interest in this. Potentially, we can come back and do a workshop on 108 and maybe some of these others and how they're going to affect us. Because we could coulda, woulda, shoulda all day today, and until we get some really basic information. And
that can be yes, they can be a topic for the June board workshop session at 11 o'clock. I like it. Yeah.
And our county clerk and recorder, former assessor Steve Schleicher, loves to talk about it.
Okay.
We'll invite Steve. Good.
Yeah, I was going to ask Mark to sit down with him, but Mark's going to be very busy with abatements.
Okay.
Good.
All right.
I think we were
And-
gonna do Transit 101, so maybe we'll move the Transit 101 to July, but.
Whatever, you guys figure that out, but I think it's something that needs to be done sooner because we're all getting ready for our budgets. To start talking about them, and we will definitely be part of our conversations, so.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, anything else besides 108 and 213?
Madam
We
Chair,
had a huge amount of bills we talked about,
we
so.
did, yeah. And Dan, if you're still hanging in there and not worn out and overcoming PTSD from the session.
I'm here.
Yeah, the one on air pollution, 1294, there was confusion when we met on Monday as to whether or not we could get that clarified. So it exempted the areas that aren't in non-attainment. Do you know if that correction was able to be worked in there?
Yeah, it passed third reading. That is still as it was when it came out of the House. It came out of the Senate exactly the same way. And talking to Jenny Wilford, they want it to be statewide.
Okay. All right, we will brace for whatever that impact is. Okay.
Well, I want to echo Mayor Dixon's comment. I have had really long weekend with all that, and I didn't have any caffeine this morning, and it's showing. And so thank you very much for you stepping forward and being part of that co-chair today. I think that's part of what we do. You know, we get people involved and come alongside and help them and train them up. And I think you've done a fantastic job, you and Commissioner Stone. So thank you very much. We will recover. We got some work to do this summer. We'll keep reaching out. And I think you had a great idea for building those relationships. Are there any other questions on anything the legislative session did? Because honestly, people put in a lot of hours on this. And for some of us that get paid a little bit and some of us none at all, it's a passion to keep our county and our state moving forward. So, yes.
And if it's done, I want to, the three quick things. One is, again, appreciate Commissioner Stone and Mayor Dixon and you, Madam Mayor. There was several times I would be on the phone with you and you'd be like, oh, well, I'm on my way up to Denver or I'm in Denver. So the three of you made the trips up there to testify and just be seen in the hallway. So that's very much appreciated. And I think, you know, speaking for, I'm not trying to speak for Dan, but I think it makes Dan's job easier when there's folks actually there and that show a commitment to our position. The second thing is, again, I'd like to just echo again the commitment and great work of the staff. Jared's hiding behind the pole here, but there's plenty of times, you know, I'll walk into his office and he's got this giant TV set up on his filing cabinet. I'm like, what are you watching? He's got the legislative hearings up on YouTube, kind of keeping track of stuff. So Jared and Danelle and Jess, everyone just did a great job of supporting and making sure if you guys had a question or some information, we grabbed it and move forward. My third and final point is, Jody, if you got a Lifetime Achievement Award, does that mean you could stop doing stuff? And thank you.
Jared, it's nice to know we drug you to the dark side with us on geeking out on those legislative sessions. So
before I sign off, if I can, I just want to thank everybody that came up and testified, because we had more folks testifying and engaged this year than in the 3 years. I think this is my third year with you all. And every time somebody speaks besides me on the views of Pikes Peak, area of Council of Governments, just makes the next bill that much easier for us to either get what we want or fight or whatever, because it enhances our reputation down there as somebody that needs to be taken seriously. So I personally want to thank everyone and all your effort that you put in on behalf of your communities, your counties, and Pikes Peak area of governments.
thank you, Dan. I think that echoes the intent of this group when it formed, was to be a voice up there. We were sitting around complaining about Dr. Cog got this and Dr. Cog did that, and we decided to figure out a way to do something about it. So thank you. All right, anybody else? All right, thank you very much, Dan.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Go take your armor off. Battle gear.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, that takes us on to item 6B, update on comprehensive economic development strategy, SEDS, and military planning activities. Paul, good morning.
Turn that on. I'm Paul Rochette. I'm the Military Planning Program Manager, and I'm also wearing the hat of the Economic Development Manager. So I wanted to give you, I'm going to be brief, but thorough. So if I can do both at the same time. On the SEDS, it stands for a Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. It's a grant that we received funded by the Economic Development Administration and passed through the Colorado Office of Economic Development International Trade. And we received this grant early in this year, and the grant was finally approved and funded in February. And we started to put together this SEDS really kind of early March. But essentially what a SEDS is a study to facilitate and coordinate and collaborate on the economic development planning within a region. And most regions in the United States have a SEDS, and we do not. Now, the impetus behind this is that the Economic Development Administration has determined that in the future, for any region to receive grants from EDA, they have to have a completed SEDS for the region. And we know we have some SEDS project, a Fountain and Rail Park project, and there are others SEDS plans being talked about, or SEDS EDA funded grants being talked about. So we determined, the board determined that we should go after this grant and proceed with it. So in the month of March, I really kind of put together both a steering committee, which consists of mostly economists and other business leaders in the region, and also a stakeholder group. The initial stakeholder group, I spent much of that month attracting people to the stakeholder group, and we have at least 100 people on that list, and then another 20 or 30 who have signed on to the initial stakeholders list. So we have a fairly large group of people to do this. The whole process is really to look at the strengths and weaknesses and the opportunities and threats of both the region, and we're looking at it on a more geographic scale for other communities. And then to look at the strategies that fall out of that SWOT analysis. What are the things that we need to do to improve the economy? And then we begin to look at what possible projects are we looking for, either grand regional scale projects, industry focused projects, community focused projects, and get them into the SEDS document. And then finally, we have to do an economic resiliency analysis so that we can anticipate the bad things that could occur economically, and also anticipate how we would respond to that and how we might recover from that. So we put together the steering committee of about 15 folks. Plus, we've got the stakeholders, and I've begun doing both one-on-one interviews and work with various groups. We've got a meeting coming up in a week and a half in Park County with a number of folks there. We anticipate doing this throughout the community, and we'll continue to do it this month and during the month of July. So at the same time, the Colorado Springs Chamber and Economic Development Corporation has commissioned a very large sector study and called the Newmont study. That study went into great detail of the economic drivers of the region. They have about 10 different focus areas, including aerospace, including cyber, healthcare, manufacturing. I mean, a whole lot of different major sectors. That hasn't been released publicly yet, but we have an advanced copy, so we're pulling material out of that as well. As we move forward with this, I've been beginning to develop, I won't even call it a draft report, more of a skeleton, in that I reviewed SEDS from around the country, and there's a dozen different ways to write a SED. So I'm trying to put what ours is going to look like, and then get approval from our steering committee. Is this the way we want to go? So by the end of the month, we expect to have 30 or 40 interviews and meetings completed. We'll finish them through the summer. And then we'll really kind of be developing a stakeholder meeting in July or August so that everybody can begin to see what this thing is looking like, and is there anything that we're missing. We expect to bring it to you folks sometime in September, and it has to be completed and submitted to EDA by the end of October. So, and hopefully then it'll be approved at that point. So that's that initiative that we're going through. On the military planning side, for those who are fairly new to the group, we also have a program called the Joint Land Use Study. That's the unofficial name, it's the old name. It's also called a Compatible Use Study, which we don't use that term. But it is a grant. It's a continuation of a grant that we received. Gosh, Andy, was this 5, 6 years ago was our first JLS study?
2015, 2016.
2015, 2016. And this is our third JLS study. And the first one was a very broad, big picture is what are the military civilian interface issues? And that's what this whole program is about, is to deal with the military civilian interface. And over 100 different issues boiled up out of that. The JLS 2 grant was really to dig into a couple of very specific issues, including an airport overlay zone, some planned COS coordination, so on and so forth. And this grant we received just about 2 years ago, and it had 4 specific tasks in it. And the first task was work with the City of Colorado Springs to hire a consultant to do a design study for the civilian side entrance into Peterson Air Force Base, at that time Peterson Air Force Base, on Peterson Road. That grant, that contract's been let, and it's almost complete. It's moving along very quickly, should be complete in the next month or so. The second project was to provide a resiliency study to then Schriever Air Force Base. And initially we were looking at just providing them with money to study how to put in a second transmission line. Well, as things evolve over time, first of all, we realized that, they had already done the study, had already figured it out. We didn't have a use for the money from that perspective. We can't use that money for actual construction. So we began to look at, well, what else should we do with this? And then the Air Force came out with their intention to develop a climate action plan. And we thought, well, we better wait for the climate action plan. And then the Air Force decided to, let's reorganize those 3 installations of Schriever, Peterson, and Cheyenne Mountain into the Space Force, which we had to wait for that to be done. And now the concept is we're not going to look just at electricity, but we're going to look at the resiliency issues on the civilian side to provide to the military in electricity, water, natural gas, perhaps cyber, perhaps transportation. In other words, all the kinds of resiliency things that the military is dependent upon the civilian sector for. We're at the point where we're realizing the money that we had for that is not nearly sufficient, nor is the time. So we're putting out an RFI, which should go out in this next 7 days or so, in order to get an idea from consultants on what this should entail. What will it cost? How long will it take? Once we get that, we'll then develop an RFP, issue an RFP, and hopefully hire another consulting firm, assuming we get the additional funds from the DoD. The office that we use through DoD is called the Office of Local Defense Community Cooperation, or Old CC is the term that we use. So Old CC will determine whether we get that extra funds or not. We think we will. We think it's extremely high priority, and we're pretty much counting on getting approval for additional funds and additional time. The third project we're working is to assist the Air Force Academy with some stormwater damage issues, excess stormwater running through the academy is creating a lot of both erosion and habitat destruction. And the Air Force Academy has been working with the City of Colorado Springs and Matrix Design Group to address the issues that emanate from city property. But we also have the stormwater that's coming from north of the academy and from northeast through El Paso County. We formed a committee to deal with that. It took a little while to get going. We had changes in staff, but essentially we've been meeting as a small group that has grown as we recognize the magnitude of this issue. And essentially we've come to the conclusion we've added City of Colorado Springs and the Fountain Creek Watershed District and Fort Carson and others who are interested. We're realizing that dealing with stormwater really becomes a regional issue. And we're looking and talking with the Fountain Creek Watershed District that they would take over this project in terms of finding the solutions to address both the stormwater runoff amounts and the regulations behind the development that allow for stormwater. So that program, that project is moving along nicely, but we don't know where it's going to go. These are oftentimes projects where we don't know what the end point is, but we're moving towards it, whatever it is. So that one we feel really good about. And then the fourth one is wildfire mitigation. And initially, the project was simply to facilitate communication between civilian wildfire agencies and the military installation fire departments. We did that. We realized that what's really needed beyond just introducing them to each other and getting them to talk was they need money. Wildfire mitigation costs a lot of money. It's up to like $3,000 an acre. So last fall, we started going after some grants through the Community Wildfire Defense Grant, and we submitted grant applications for 3 wildfire protection districts: Monument, Woodman Valley, and Highway 115, because they needed to write what's called a community wildfire protection plan to get grants. We submitted that. We did not get them. It turns out that that program received over 400 applications nationwide. They could only fund 100, and only 1 was funded in Colorado. So we didn't get that. So we said, okay, what's next? Well, now we've identified a program through Old CC for, it's called a REPI program. Let's see. I'm trying to remember what REPI stands for. Resiliency and Environment Protection Initiative. And that's for actually doing wildfire mitigation, getting dollars to hire crews. We're going after a grant in June. June 12th is the preliminary application date. The problem we're finding is that with a flood of mitigation dollars, Colorado Springs Fire Department doesn't have the capacity to do more work. Neither does Cheyenne Mountain State Park. Neither does U.S. Forest Service. And neither do any of the other wildfire programs, agencies that are bordering a military installation. So we're bringing on some nonprofits. We're still in negotiations, discussion with Palmer Land Trust, the Nature Conservancy, and the Trust for Public Lands. We just really reached out to them in the past week, and we're scrambling to get this grant done. But the project that we think we're going after will be a project on Cheyenne Mountain State Park that borders the Cheyenne Mountain Space Base on its southern side. And we're working in collaboration with the city fire department, because they have some projects that are butting up against the one that we're going after. So we're really creating a collaborative effort on wildfire mitigation with the eye to creating more of a long-term, over time, a much more landscape scale approach to wildfire mitigation, using as many dollars from as many sources as we can. So that's really kind of my update here. So I'll take any questions, comments, advice, whatever.
Hang on, Commissioner Williams, and then we'll go to Mayor Dixon.
The sheriff has a wild fire brigade or something. Did you reach out to them?
We have. They're part of the big group that we put together.
All right. And we should be getting a new director of OEM as well.
Right. And in the past, I found that OEM really deals with the fire and post-fire, but not the mitigation. So, okay.
Mayor Dixon?
Yeah, I was just curious if we do joint, like desktop emergency management exercises, because it seems like we might have a situation where we're trying to get people out and they might be trying to get people in.
Right. That is a wildfire topic that we haven't grabbed onto. We've really been focusing just on bringing money to hire crews to get in to masticate trees and remove ground cover and so on and so forth. So it's really not a role that we've been playing. So, and I don't know if we should. That might be something more appropriate for PPOEM. Yeah.
OEM, the Pikes Peak Office of Emergency Management, they have done one for Lewis Palmer High School. They did one up somewhere in Stan's district. And so definitely they will come and do a whole practice evacuation for you. And it's really worth it for your citizens to understand it.
And it's real life, because I've been involved as one of the volunteers at the center, and it's real life. They go around and get people to volunteer for it, and they come and everybody act like it's the real thing. So
they even bring out the volunteer crew to give you hot dogs and chips and water at the end.
I think we may actually have one scheduled up for our area.
Oh, good.
But I was just curious if we did one jointly with the military.
Oh, the military. Okay, yeah.
Then, yeah, that's a question that certainly worthy to be pursued. So maybe we can talk afterwards and get your ideas on that. Yeah.
Commissioner Stone.
Yeah, and actually Mayor Dixon, those do exist, and actually Teller County this next year, we're going to be doing a tabletop on, with, military, Office of Emergency Management with Teller County Office of Emergency Management for a, downed aircraft scenario. But similar ones can obviously be done for wildfire, et cetera. So.
Any other questions?
Anybody online? No hands raised there? Okay, Mr. Gunning?
Just one quick comment back on the economic development plan that Paul is leading up. I know we've got a handful. You mentioned the steering committee, the smaller kitchen cabinet that we meet with on a regular basis monthly, and we're really marching toward getting a draft plan together in September for October adoption by the board. And I know we've got a handful of the jurisdictions that are represented on there, but it's open to any jurisdiction that does want to send somebody. I mean, everybody's a stakeholder in this broader list, but if anybody wants to be more intimately involved, I know we've got Monument there, Fountain, the city of Colorado Springs, El Paso County, Park County, and they regularly attend. But if any other jurisdiction really wants to have somebody there, we're mindful of making sure we're not overscheduling too many meetings. But, you know, this is important. If you really have some economic development initiatives that you want to have reflected in this regional plan, that's a good way to have that done. So just let Paul or I know if you want to have somebody from your jurisdiction more dialed in with that, and we'd be happy to have anybody and everybody there. It's a good mix of public sector, private sector, and a few other, a lot of chambers of commerce that are part of that as well.
Nonprofits, community organizations, hospitals,
Well, I'm talking about
universities.
just the smaller steering committee, the
Oh, that's right.
kitchen cabinet group,
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah.
just that smaller group, yeah.
Councilmember Donaldson?
Yeah. Andy, can you just sort of tell us who's on that steering committee? Give us, is it short enough list where you can just reel them off, or is it too long?
Well, we need some help. Bob Cope from the city, Crystal Latier from the county, Kimberly Bailey, Mike Foreman from Monument, the Park County rep, is a development services director, her name escapes me. And then
Mike,
John,
yeah.
Donna Reeder Claymire, Deb Miller from Woodland Park Chamber, Terry Hayes from the Tri-Lakes Chamber, Hannah Parsons with Barn Owl, Rachel, get the last name, with Exponential Impact, and a couple other private sector type.
Tom Dewar from UCCS, Tatiana Bailey. Let's see, and I think that may be everyone.
Okay, thank you. That helps.
Any other questions on SEDS or JLUS?
All right. Well, thank you. And you're always free to call me at any time if you have any questions. So I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, that takes us down to other. Most of them are in your packet or no presentation. That takes us to HCDOT monthly update.
Thank you. So again, I'm John Hall. I'll start off with just updating on some of the Park County projects, the 24 closure, the R2B2 Bridge Enterprise project. So that is open back up. We'll see some continued work in that area, but you know, we're on pace. Obviously, the big kind of looking forward, the Highway 9 location just north of Alma, they're just are right in the Alma area there. Is looking to they have put in the formal request to put in the closure, the large area closure, right? Detouring around 24 and stuff. There is anticipated to be a local option available there, you know, local, very much shorter detour, but that project remains on pace. 9 and 285 is also looking to kick off. Most of these projects all up in the mountains really going to kick off in June is where we'll see it. On 9 and 285, the project team is planning on having a public meeting to make sure the community is informed as that work begins. The 24 resurfacing project through Woodland Park, again, June is when they're really expecting to see some of that kick off. Right now, in terms of paving, and probably late June because that's night work. Right now, a lot of guardrail work has been done, and we're really just waiting on some last administrative stuff on our concrete mix design and stuff like that for the ADA work to begin in those areas. On 67, you got a location that's across the Douglas County line and then down Gillette Flats. Both of those, all that work should be kicking off again also in June. Gillette Flats probably more closer to July. The curve correction just east of Florissant, that one is actually the one that has the highest likelihood. Everything's fallen into place now with some coordination with utilities and all, and it looks like we could see some of that rock X beginning as early as late next week or the week after. So we could see that rock excavation, the most substantial part of that project and impactful occur before the Memorial Day weekend. And finally, up there in Park County, those are projects, the chain ups locations at Grant 285, approaching Kenosha Pass on westbound. That will be kicking off here again also in June, and Alma location as well, just north of where that bridge. Those should have relatively minor impacts to any highways. Leaving Park County, we got Canyon City microsurfacing project also intended to kick off in June, and a project that's of a lot of interest occasionally to folks is that 96 resurfacing that got delayed last year. And it's about 10%. We got about 10% of the paving done, about half of the distance in the first lift coming from West Cliff, half of the 26 miles on eastbound. The 115 project has so now moving more local. 115, they're continuing to pave northbound. Have a pretty significant amount of work here coming up in this week and this weekend, even with some full depth reclamation and some of the tighter portions of that. We'll have some flagger controlled operations and stuff during that work. MAMSIP has also had a big shift to shifting northbound and opening up so we can get really, really substantial work this summer on the whole northbound stretch of I-25. I should point out we had a ribbon cutting for the Charter Oak Ranch road project here we just had it on Monday, and we also have all but formally scheduled on June 22nd a ribbon cutting at the jug handle. So a ribbon cutting of the 94 work, which is kind of the second project, sub project of the MAMSIP project. So again, June 22nd is when that ribbon cutting will be. In Colorado Springs, we have ramp metering. Will kick off again here in June. The most, that's Northgate, Academy Boulevard, finishing the work there at Academy Boulevard. And the biggest one, it looks like around June 5th, after Memorial Day holiday, that Woodman southbound on ramp will get the work. So that'll be a little pinched and tight. And then the number one, really the biggest projects we have coming up, and they're still in the design phase, but they're worth pointing out. So Fillmore to Garden of the Gods, we are hoping to have that advertised here still before July 1st. That is the plan, and everything looks on track for that. And Powers and Airport, hopefully following there shortly. Both of those projects looking to be under construction before the year ends. That's all I have, unless there's any questions. Thank you.
All right, Mayor LaKind.
Yes, first I'd like to thank CDOT for coming out to Palmer Lake and Monument and painting the lines on 105 from beginning to end. It's been very helpful, and I haven't run off the road since you've done that. So thank you very much. I do have a question though about the Baptist interchange light. We're a little bit behind. I don't know if you have an update. There's supposed to be a light where the pilot is. It was a light. It's supposed to be a roundabout now, and was wondering about that.
It's a traffic project. I don't have a lot of very specific details. I can tell you that it's my understanding they're working on the final funding and all. I do not know an ad date off the top of my head. I'd have to look that up for you and get that information.
Okay.
But,
Thank you.
it's my understanding though that we're talking about. Well, I shouldn't speculate. I'm not sure.
It was supposed to be March, where the construction was supposed to begin. Then there was a delay, and just wondering how far out that delay is going.
Well, yeah, I don't know exactly when they're planning to advertise that. I don't believe they've advertised it yet. So
okay, thank you.
I'll get that for you.
Any other questions for CDOT? Okay, seeing none, Commissioner Hickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Glad to be here in person today. I can't often be here in person, but you're all welcome to contact me at any time. We are pleased following John's presentation to tally up that we're going to spend $200 million in Region 2 this year on roads and bridges, more than ever in our history. So we're excited about all of that. But I wanted to mention something I'm working on at the Transportation Commission. I'm leading a subcommittee that's working on fiber and broadband fee structure. There is an ongoing process where you can enter into an agreement with CDOT to provide some in-kind compensation, and in return, you can use the fiber that's laid in the right of way. That process will continue, but we also think we need to institute a fee structure, partly to implement the governor executive order from 2 years ago that said we need broadband, we need it now, we need it in rural areas. And so we are slowly implementing that, and it's not just up to us, it's also the Colorado Broadband Office. But this fee structure was announced about a couple months ago. CDOT worked hard on it to tally up some costs that we actually incur, as well as fair market value, and that combination had some adjusted fees between various types of roads and rights of way. We got some public comment that maybe that needed a little more review. So we established a subcommittee, and I'm leading that subcommittee. We're working very quickly, but I mention it to you to ask you to notify anybody that is interested in this to send public comment right away. We are going to make a decision by June because we want to do that before we might have turnover at the TC. And we will have a workshop next week. We had a workshop last month. We will have another one in June, but then we hope to make a decision the next day. So if anybody can get in public comment within the next week or so, we would appreciate that. If anyone needs help looking for that, let me know. But we want that input. We think we'll make some adjustments, but that's just my hint based on being in the head of the committee. Otherwise, I think that's great. The ribbon cutting for the MAMSIP project, Gate 19, was really fun. Glad to see your chair, Mayor Thompson, there.
Well, I probably lived the closest to it, so I really didn't have a good excuse. I could have walked to it. So, could you get that information to Andy, and then he could send it out to everybody, and maybe we can get some comments for you. That would be great. Commissioner Williams.
Yes, at the Statewide Transportation Advisory Committee, one of our big things was we talked about funding sources for CDOT. We're going to start digging deep down into it over the next 4 months. There is one program that tends to be a little bit more controversial because it's not set in stone, and it's called the Regional Priority Program. Right now, it's the funding, it's 50 million only compared to everything else. And they give it based upon 50% population, 35% lane miles, and 15% truck VMT. And it used to be different. And apparently every time we get into it, it becomes quite a fight between the rurals and the urbans. And so we're going to actually start that discussion early, because sometimes that RPP formula is used in other formulas. They say, oh, well, we haggled over the RPP for 24 hours. Let's go ahead and, adopt this into another thing. That was the big discussion. The other discussion on MPOs and TPRs. Let's see, Callahan, you don't like being in your TPR. So first of all, the census has to update for a metropolitan planning organization to change its boundaries. I think our MPO, there's an invisible line just somewhere on US 24 outside of Falcon. That is the end of our MPO, which is PPACG. You are in the TPR, which Dick Elsner heads up, the Central Front Range TPR, and it kind of goes around in a circle. They are going to be doing a study, very possible, first of all, I doubt that the census will go all the way out to Callahan to move us in with us, but there may be some movement. For example, you could all be moved into the Eastern TPR. which is a lot of the eastern counties, and this is pure speculation, don't even know. There's already a little mini battleground going on with some of them. They've worked with their TPR for 30 years and they don't want to change the people they work with. They work together to get their projects coming up in an orderly fashion. No county wants to be moved from one to the next. So, but we will see what happens there. Ultimately, it is the Transportation's Commission decision. We can make a recommendation, but they will make the ultimate decision. So we're starting a study on that. The other thing we found out, and I'm pursuing the leads on this, the Central Front Range does not have a recorded organizational document. We think it is with the San Luis Valley, maybe down in Fremont County or somewhere, because I had Victoria Chavez at the county look it up. So we're going to be getting together a formal Central Front Range TPR organizational documents. Our paperwork's in order, and that will then go out to county commissions. We'll explain it probably next month or the next. It has to go out to county commissions for approval, be recorded, so that. And that's something that will need to happen on a regular basis after that. But when we were starting to talk about where our recorded TPR documents were, we couldn't find them. So I asked the person I know at El Paso County to be the fountain of all knowledge. So that's it. It was an interesting meeting.
Okay, now we have to have acronym quiz. Because
Oh.
you threw out about 25 of them there.
Acronym quiz, a TPR is a transportation planning region. There's a picture on your computer screen and on the display here. And then the COGs, the MPOs are the Metropolitan Planning Organizations. Metropolitan Planning Organizations are reset after every census based upon population. So Dr. COG is this really huge Metropolitan Planning Organization. We have North Front Range. They are a Metropolitan Planning Organization, and then we have us. Then the state takes everybody else and divides them into transportation planning regions. That is how you get your projects into the statewide transportation improvement plan, which is our transportation advisory committee that meets during the month of all the engineers. And that's for the MPO. The TPRs are not able to meet as often, but they get together every year. They review their projects. Sometimes there's horse trading going on. And we have extra money for this project if you'll put ours up and give us extra money for that one. And so that's how the transportation planning regions work.
And I think VMT?
VMT is vehicles miles traveled.
RPP?
RPP. Regional. I had to look that one up. It's called Regional Priority Program. That is very specific to Colorado. Even Mr. Liasato had to ask what that was.
Okay. Well, sometimes we throw around a lot of acronyms and
Yes.
and people are new and trying to understand stuff. And so sometimes we have to remember
You
that.
try to keep up with CDOT staff. It blows you away.
Well, yeah. What those terms we got, they probably have a book twice as thick, right?
Yes, they do. Mhm.
All right. Thank you, Holly. All righty. Any questions for the staff report?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Not a question, but a comment on, and by the way, Raleigh, be careful what you ask for when you ask to be part of the MPO. Because you always got to remember you're competing with everybody within your district for projects. And I would hazard a guess, and Teller County is in a unique position. Well, not completely unique, but City of Woodland Park's in the MPO. Rest of the county is not. So we're part of Central Front Range TPR. So for all of our projects outside of Woodland Park, I won't say competing, but we are going in with other governments from that Central Front Range region. And that's how, for example, I think you guys had a sidewalk project out there that got funded through MMOF, through Central Front Range TPR, and others. You're competing with Alma, Fairplay, City of Cripple Creek. Again, I use the word competing, but that's not the proper word. But you're working together, I guess is a better way to put it, with all of those groups so that your projects get lifted up and within MPOs, they can get swallowed up pretty quickly, but so be careful what you ask for, but, and I want, again, I want to thank Commissioner Hickey also for being here today. She also was with us at our Central Front Range TPR meeting just a few weeks ago, in Fairplay. And, kind of the message that she got to hear there is that there are some TPRs that work really well. Central Front Range seems to feel like they work pretty well, and that was the very polite hands off our TPR message. But obviously you guys have a job to do because there's some TPRs we fully recognize that aren't really working. But from a Central Front Range standpoint, that particular group works together really, really well. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Go ahead, Roland.
My biggest confliction right now is communication. Okay, and actually all the designation and all the infrastructure and all the different programs. But where do I get this information? I don't, it's not coming to me so I can actually review it. So I need to have that done, please.
We'll see. We'll talk to Commissioner Elsner, but I'll also talk to Victoria Chavez at the county because she's going to the smaller committee, the Transportation Advisory Committee, which we get the minutes for on behalf of El Paso County. So she's your staff person. And I'll get you that, we'll get you that information, and then we'll make sure that Commissioner Elsner gets you invited to the bigger meetings. And some of them meet only on a quarterly basis.
I like to be part of the roundtables or, get involved so I can know what's going on. So,
Yes, I do appreciate that.
thank you.
All
I
right.
still grumble about it.
We all need something, right? All righty. Just encourage everybody to take a look at page 50 to 52 on their packets and see if there's any committee and commission vacancies in your community that you can keep working on. I think the list is getting slightly shorter.
We're making progress, it looks like. So, yeah, so thank you for your encouragement of getting people to come forward for committees. Yeah, very, very, very helpful.
Okay, and that takes us on to Executive Director report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple things real quick. Back on broadband, had a good outreach meeting with the city of Victor last month up in Teller County, and asked them in the context of the SEDS work that we're digging into, the economic development strategies, asked them what their number one economic development need is up there, and they said broadband and better they have no connectivity right now as far as high-speed connection. So kind of just brainstorming how to sort of make something happen. So if there's a way to do something on Highway 67, might be some collaboration there. So just a lot of interest across our region, I'm sure. Shifting gears, our new yellow books are here and they're in the back of the room. Take a box or 10 if you want. We're doing widespread distribution. I know Jody and his staff are getting them out far and wide across the region, but super excited that we just got those in last week, I believe, for a 2023 edition. Shifting gears once again, I think it's safe to announce that we got a Transportation Safety Award from the Governor's Office of Highway Safety. So super excited about that. Remind me, John, the dollar amount, roughly 300,000 for about 450,000 over a 3-year period. So it allows us to hire a traffic safety champion. That'll be our designated point person going out in the community to work with schools and other stakeholders to really address the high, scary rate of serious and fatal crashes that we have across the region. They'll be working closely with Drive Smart Colorado as well. Drive Smart couldn't apply for the grant, so we did it through PPACG. So it's a really good partnership. So we're super excited about that. So more to come. The ink is barely dry or not even dry yet on the contract. So more to come soon. Another topic, just 2 more to go. I know we have a Grant Navigator Summit, Infrastructure Summit that's scheduled where the state's been taking the lead on this. We're providing a lot of support, but it ties in with our grant opportunities around the Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, IIJA, and also the Inflation Reduction Act. So working with local communities, working with our local grant navigator, Jill Gabler, gives us a chance to go after federal grants that are out there. So the state has organized across the entire state a whole series of summits. So the one for our region is going to be held on Tuesday, June the 13th, pretty much all day from 9 to 3 or 9 to 4. I don't have an exact time yet. I know we're going to do it up in Woodland Park. up at the, pretty sure it's been nailed down at the UPass Cultural Center. So more to come on that. I think I may have sent out one note already just on the basic information we've had so far. But as we get the agenda nailed down for that, we'll start sharing that out with everybody. But really encourage participation. There'll be a lot of presentations from different state departments and different entities on what is coming up or what's available right now, whether it's transportation, water projects, wastewater, broadband, and others out there. And finally, I think we're nailing down our location, offsite location for our July board meeting. And it's also going to be up at Woodland Park and most likely also in the UPass Cultural Center. So Mayor Pro Tem Case, so thank you so much for your assistance in helping us get that nailed down. So more details to come. Yeah, good. Thank you much. Okay, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Member entity announcements. Anybody around the room have anything? Okay, Mayor LeKind?
Yeah, something fun for Monument for once. Concerts in the Park begins May 31st, goes through August 9th. Free concerts, family friendly. Come on out to Limbach Park and bring your chairs and money for the food trucks if you're so inclined, and come out and listen to some great regional bands.
Is that on your city website?
Yes, it's on the city website, it's on the Facebook page, probably on Instagram and a bunch of other social sites. Starts off with the Hand Turkey Band and ends with everybody's favorite Wirewood Station. It's every Wednesday, 5:31 through 8/9. And there's one miss, and I think it is the week of 4th of July, because Palmer Lake and Monument will be very busy that week for the parade and fireworks.
Quite a few events coming up as well in Palmer Lake. We're in that summer schedule where we've been doing quarterly dances in the town hall that have been really fun, and line dancing lessons and things like that. So June 10th is the Red Wine and Blue, and the Red Wine and Blue is in support of the fireworks. And Festival on the Force, in partnering with Monument, will be in Palmer Lake from 4 p.m. until after fireworks on the 4th. Whether there's fireworks or not, whether there's a ban or not, we may not have fireworks, but Festival on the 4th has several bands, food trucks, the beer tent, all the things. It'll still be a big party in Monument and Palmer Lake, whether we get water or not. And then we have some other smaller festivals over the summer, and then we'll finish off the summer September 9th with the big Palmer Lake Wine Festival. And it'll be the 4th year of that. And all of that's on our town webpage.
Andy, can we get, if people can send it to Andy, we can send out a blast or something about stuff going on around the community?
We would be happy to, and we can use our social media as well to help amplify events that you have going on. So, yeah.
I'll send you flyers for everything. Do you have a parade flyer? I think Terry maybe.
The parade would go through the chamber and the Kiwanis, so I can
Yeah.
I can get you links to that, but I can
Sure.
send you the band stuff.
Yes, good.
I'll get you flyers for all of our events as well. Because there's a lot, and Palmer Lake and Monument are fun in the summer. There's so much to do.
Sounds like a tagline for a.
Well, and another fun thing too, Mitch, is that Mitch and I got to participate last week. So with all the events in Palmer Lake and Monument coming up, KOA did a commercial, and like Mitch was in a park, like try a new park.
Don't watch KOAA. May through July, do not watch it.
And then mine was, I'm coming down the reservoir trail, and it's try a new trail. And then it's try a new restaurant. And I guess they put all the things together, and then it'll say, try Lakes. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Somebody's really creative. All right. Anything else from anybody? Mayor.
I would just like to share with folks in Woodland Park, we've for more than 40 years hosted Symphony Above the Clouds with the Philharmonic Orchestra. Lately, pre-COVID and weather, and because it gets below 64 degrees in Woodland Park, it kind of faded away, and the Philharmonic is not doing much outdoors any longer. But we have a local symphony
that's a wind symphony that's playing for us now. Same event. It's as wonderful as ever. But one of the challenges, and Eric will agree with me on this, is we just can't have fireworks in July up there anymore because of our forest and its vicinity. It's just so dry always and so dangerous. So we've come up with an alternative that we tried last year. We have a drone show that was a huge success and the folks just loved it. It's
send me the info on that.
absolutely. I'll have staff send that to you.
There soon too.
Yeah, so it's really fun and people really received it well.
Do you have to have a mountain for it to back to?
No, not at all. And it's right above you. You have to be there at the park to see it, but it's really a neat thing. It's not cheap, but folks liked it and it worked in lieu of the fireworks. So just wanted to share that with you all. And I'll get the information to Andy and he can share that with everyone.
Because it's crazy. We don't know until the day.
Black,
before.
could you turn your mic on?
Yeah, we never know how stressful this is. We never know till the day before if there's actually fireworks or not.
Right.
And getting a pyro anymore after COVID is almost impossible too. So that's a challenge as well with fireworks, is hiring a pyro.
Is the drone show more expensive than fireworks?
No,
I didn't think so, because
No.
fireworks are 30 grand.
yeah, it's about
Yeah.
25.
Awesome.
That's what we're paying. I just wanted to share that. Thank you. I'll get that to you, Andy.
Commissioner Stone?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Not to let Manitou Springs have all the fun. On May 19th, in Cripple Creek, they'll be hosting the Pikes Peak Paranormal Conference. So,
Sounds like that should be.
I just want to let folks know that. Also, May 15th is the annual release of the wild donkeys in Cripple Creek. They for their health, they bring them in, give them veterinary care and food over the winter, and then they're released for the summer to wander around the town. So that'll be happening on May 15th. And I'm sure that Mayor Pro Tem Case we'll talk about it when we get closer to it, but also they've approved the Veterans Rally again, I believe for this coming August, July.
It is.
It is the weekend after Sturgis is over. And that is the first full week of August. So I don't have the date in my mind right now, but the first full week from Saturday to Saturday is Sturgis in North Dakota. And it would be the weekend after that.
Right. And as part of that, they'll have, the Traveling Vietnam Wall. I believe there's also going to be a new dedication of a memorial for Afghan killed in action and MIA to the memorial there as well.
Yes.
And that's always, since that's moved to Woodland Park, I really just think that event has just gotten that much better. It was always a great event. And they still do the rides, through, of course, which is amazing in Teller County. But Memorial Park there in Woodland Park, the city is really invested in. It's a tremendous venue for, it's unbelievable how many thousands of people that can be in that park. And there may not be, frankly, a prettier place sitting outside in the summertime in the Pikes Peak region than sitting there in Memorial Park with the lake and that north face of Pikes Peak just towering over you. There's music all day. There's vendors, beer gardens. It's an amazing event.
The ladder trucks hang a massive United States flag over the park as well that takes up the entire intersection. It's pretty impressive. And
we did that too.
to watch that fly in the wind is really moving. No pun intended, but yeah, I'll share more as we get closer to that. I coordinate with the organizer, Jim Ware, Pro Promotions, and as representing our council in our community, work pretty closely with him in making that happen. It's always a challenge for funding. And we've got council members that don't believe that public funds should be used to support things for the community, but I think we'll make it happen, and stay tuned. It's really an amazing ceremony on Saturday. Pretty moving. They give away a motorcycle to a veteran that's injured and usually can't walk, and they modify a motorcycle that they give away to him. It's really quite moving. If you've never been, I would invite you to come. You don't have to be a biker. So thank you for that moment, madam.
Absolutely. Commissioner Williams?
Oh,
Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't.
No, if Holly, if you want to go first, that's fine.
well, mine's not that exciting. But of course, we do have our El Paso County Fair. We are doing the Commissioners on the Road tour. Our first trip was over to Manitou because of parking. We all had to drive in the same bus, which led to a lot of corny jokes like, when's the next bathroom? Are we there yet? Or if we should all go through Chick-fil-A and order 15 orders just to drive everybody nuts. But we had an enjoyable time in Manitou. Our next one will be out in Calhan. We are in Calhan, not next Tuesday, but a week from Tuesday, and we have invited Excel Energy to come. So that'll be a feisty discussion, lots of public comment on the Excel Energy line going through Calhan, and then we'll be up in Lewis Palmer High School because technically the Monument Town Council Town Hall is in Stan's district. So we'll be at Lewis Palmer High School. The other interesting thing we're doing is right now there's a bill that that requires us a big public process for redistricting commissioner districts. And so we're going through that. We put ourselves on as the redistricting commission, and we'll be having hearings in every district in the city. It's a fascinating process. So we'll see how it goes.
Mayor Graham?
Yes, thank you. I guess first off, I'd like to say I appreciate that paranormality is being more broadly accepted. So thank you, Teller County, for catching the torch there. The rail business, the Front Range Passenger Rail Commission will be conducting a series of stakeholder meetings along the Front Range. The one that would be of interest to El Paso County and in this area would be held on, it'd be Thursday, June the 1st. It's from 2 to 4 p.m. It will have a Zoom capability. I believe there will also have a physical location that's yet to be determined. It's basically a fairly preliminary meeting. It would be an opportunity for anyone who's concerned about any aspect of Front Range Passenger Rail to listen in and express concerns and opinions on that. So this is really kind of a formative effort. So I'll try to remember to send out a link here, or send it to Andy and let him pass it forward. Thank you.
Yeah, I got that link from you earlier. Thank you. But yeah, there's probably a lot of people interested in that. Mayor Dixon?
Okay, so mine's really boring. But there's a regulation 28 that's being written that applies to all buildings 50,000 square feet and over. I will be testifying on behalf of the Pikes Peak Regional Building Department on that one. I have also done a deep dive on the economic impact analysis and the energy use intensity analysis. I believe both of those to be highly flawed. For example, the energy use intensity analysis uses buildings, all buildings from across the country, all climate zones. And when you sort the data using buildings of 50,000 square feet or more in like the western half of the United States in a cold climate zone, the numbers come out completely different and much more reasonable, I would add. The economic impact analysis. I'll add, by the way, energy use analysis, I was actually able to go in and validate the numbers they had. The economic impact analysis, however, I can't get there from here. I go back to the Department of Energy source document, and that source document uses a hypothetical building of 200,000 square feet, and it was done in 2011. And they must have some software or something they put together with that hypothetical building that comes up with some grandiose number, but the ones that they actually have documented for net present values, in addition to that, 72% of those are negative and significantly negative, like 9 million versus 670,000. So, you know, the economic impact analysis, I believe to be severely flawed. And so I'm actually writing up a report, be testifying on behalf of the Pikes Peak Regional Building, and that's coming up, I believe, in August.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody else, any announcements? Anybody online? Oh, yeah,
Well,
Councilmember Donaldson?
I feel bad. Colorado Springs hasn't said anything yet. You guys just trashed us. But one event that's coming up in Colorado Springs on the 19th, which is next Friday at Memorial Park, is Peace Officers, the Peace Officers Memorial Ceremony to recognize law enforcement officers who've been killed in line of duty. And again, it's at 10 a.m. Memorial Park. I believe the mayor will speak there, Mayor Suthers, and our chief of police. I think perhaps Joe Roybal will also speak there. It's a beautiful setting. You know, the lake is the backdrop, and you may have seen the wall they have there for the Peace Officers Memorial. It's touching. So if you're in town or you can get over there at 10 a.m. on not this Friday, but next Friday, I recommend. It's a great way to show your respect and your appreciation for law officers.
Not to speak ill of someone, but somebody has really dropped the ball on that this year. I have been asking about that for a month, and there's been zero contact with any of the outlying communities. Unfortunately, there's events that are planned on top of that. And I've RSVP'd for them. And I'm assuming Officer Becerra will be honored at that, and that's a huge thing for our community. And we have had zero, I cannot stress, zero communication about that.
I can only say that city council is not responsible for.
No, I think you can repeat the message, and
I will. I'll pass that on.
we seem to have a communication that alternates back and forth, the communication piece between the city and the county. And I've been trying to figure out whose turn it is this year. So if you could pass that along, if you want people to come.
Then going forward, maybe I'll try to use this as more of a forum to
Yeah.
put that stuff out there. Although, as you know, we have an office that the city does that's their job to.
But in the past, we would have received
Inform.
like a save the date in April and then a more formal invitation in May. And so
I can
somebody's dropped the ball on
Yeah,
that.
it wasn't
You could
Yolanda
pass
or
that
me.
along.
We'll find out who it is because Officer Becerra needs to be honored as well as,
Well, and now,
our officer. So
right, and now you've got the mayor at another event that gonna have to change plans.
Well, I'm not going to announce anything else after the way.
No, and I'm not jumping on you. I'm not jumping on you. It's been very frustrating. And just yesterday, I was trying to find out more information again.
I liked all your
No.
events.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So if
Thank
you could just pass that along. And it's not too late. They can still get some invitations out, right? Hopefully we can get some people there. So,
Yes.
all right. Let's see. City of Fountain has joined the Drone Club this year. We have formed a partnership with Pikes Peak International Raceway, which is south. It is in the city of Fountain, but it's part of, it's way down the road. And on July 1st, they are going to be doing I don't even know what this means, drift car and drone show. And they're doing it as soon as it gets dark, and they're doing it again closer to midnight. And if you are a resident of the city of Fountain, there's a special code online. You can get in for free. And if you're not, you're still welcome to come down and you can pay. So anyways, we're really excited to get that partnership going. They're talking fireworks, but it's their event, and we're just going to be there along for the ride, no pun intended, and going to be a fun evening. May 20th is the ride for the wall through the city of Fountain, around 1:30, 2 o'clock. The people that start in Ontario, California, and they ride through various cities all the way to Washington, D.C. for Memorial Day. And they ride for those who no longer can. So if you want to grab a flag and come out and help us line Highway 85 in honor of the riders going through town, or if it's going through your town, grab a flag and do that. Last night at our city council meeting, Chief Heber has resigned as our police chief. He will stay, he's our public safety officer. He will stay on through the end of June as our public safety officer. So you still have time to say your goodbyes. And then we appointed Commander Christiani, has now been promoted to Chief Christiani. So he is our new chief of police in the city of Fountain. So that was quite a change last night. I know a lot of people know Chief Heber, but so he'll be around for a few months. He'll be in and out, burning up some vacation time and all that. But He's been a great asset to our community, and we are sad to see him go, but happy for him to move on with his next phase in life, and part of which includes his 2-year-old very active daughter. So we are excited about Chief Christiani coming on and what he's gonna bring to our department. So any other announcements from any other entities? All right, seeing none, we do have a meet and greet afterwards. Hopefully everybody can hang around for a few minutes and just kind of get to know each other a little better, make those great links with each other that we like to make. And otherwise, this ends the formal meeting. And hopefully I'll see the mayors up at Rudy's, huh? All right, thank you.